My name is Bobby. As I sat in my quiet apartment, my baby daughter Lily nestled in my arms, I was reminded of the chain of events that had shattered my illusions about family. It all started with that fateful Tuesday morning, a day that would change my life and my perception of those I held dear. I was just 6 weeks into motherhood when disaster struck. I'd left Lily with my neighbor, Miss Jenkins, to run a quick errand. I thought it would be a simple trip, grabbing some baby formula and a few groceries. I estimated it to take no more than 20 minutes. Little did I know that a reckless driver on Elm Street would change everything. He blew through a red light and crashed into the driver's side of my car with such force that I blacked out before the airbag even fully inflated. When I woke up, paramedics were hovering over me, asking who they should call. Without hesitation, I gave them my mother's number. After all, that's what you do when you're in trouble, right? You call your parents, expecting them to be there for you. I was still in the triage area when my mother finally answered the phone. I tried my best to stay calm as I explained where I was at Forest Hill Medical Center and that I was going to be admitted. I also told her that Lily was with a Miss Jenkins on Maple Lane and needed to be picked up within the hour. There was a brief silence on the other end, then she said she needed to talk to my father. Sitting there in a hospital gown, my hand trembling as I held the phone, I listened to the muffled voices on the other end. When she came back, her tone had changed completely. She informed me that they had a long-awaited theater reservation. She casually suggested that I call a babysitting service. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I asked her to repeat herself, and she did. I reminded her that Lily was just 6 weeks old, not a toddler who could wait for hours. She was a defenseless newborn who needed to be held, fed on schedule, and kept warm. I pleaded with her, telling her I was in the emergency room with a broken collarbone and 2 cracked ribs, and I needed her. But my mother, the woman I had supported financially for years, responded with words that would haunt me forever. Your sister, Ava, never has these problems. She's on a European cruise. Ava had booked a 10-day European tour 3 months ago, and for some reason, that was the comparison my mother chose to make. While Ava was off having the time of her life, I was strapped to a hospital bed and my baby was waiting for someone to come and get her from a neighbor's house, and my parents were talking about a theater show. I hung up the phone. I didn't scream or cry, I just stared at the ceiling of the triage bay for a long time, listening to the beeps of the monitors, the sound of rolling carts, and someone coughing down the hall. Then I took matters into my own hands. I used my phone to search for a reliable emergency childcare agency. From my hospital bed, I explained the situation, gave them a Miss Jenkins' address, and authorized the payment over the phone. In just 40 minutes, a certified caregiver was at Miss Jenkins' door. Between X-rays, I coordinated every detail. I arranged for the car seat transfer, sent the caregiver Lily's feeding schedule via text, and made sure Miss Jenkins had my hospital room number. All this, while lying on a gurney with a broken collarbone. As I waited to be moved to a room, something inside me shifted. It wasn't grief, it was a cold, hard realization. I opened my banking app and looked at the automatic transfer I had set up years ago. Every month, without fail, I'd sent $5,000 to my parents. It started when my father lost his job, and they were on the verge of losing their home. I kept sending the money because I thought that's what a good daughter does. I never complained, never asked for anything in return. Over 8 years, I had sent a total of $480,000 to the very people who had just told me to call a babysitting service. Without a second thought, I canceled the transfer right there. No phone call, no explanation, I just did it and set my phone down on the bedside table. Around 7 that evening, I was moved to a room on the 4th floor. The caregiver sent me a photo of Lily sleeping in her car seat, looking so small and peaceful in her clean onesie. It made my heart ache in a way that had nothing to do with my broken bones. I sent a thank you message and promised to check in again soon. At around 8:30, I heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow, deliberate steps that could only belong to someone older. The door opened, and my grandfather, Mr. Thompson, walked in. He stood in the doorway for a moment, looking at me, taking in my brace, the four, and the hospital gown. His expression was unreadable. It wasn't pity but something more profound. He pulled a chair close to my bed, sat down, and looked me straight in the eyes. "I heard what happened," he said. I didn't ask how he knew. My grandfather was 82 years old and had an uncanny ability to know things before anyone told him. He placed his hand on mine and just held it in silence for a moment. That silence meant more to me than any words my parents had said that day. Then he said, "Your mother called me to complain that you hung up on her." I almost laughed. I recounted the entire story to him, the accident, the phone call, my mother's insensitive remarks about Ava's cruise, and the theater reservation. I also told him about hiring the caregiver from the hospital bed and canceling the money transfer. He listened without interrupting, something very few people in my family were capable of doing. When I finished, he was quiet for a while. Then he said, "You've been carrying this family on your shoulders for far too long, Bobby." Those words cracked something open inside me. It was like a dam that I'd kept sealed for years finally broke. I realized that I had been quietly tired of it all, that the monthly transfers had become more of an obligation than an act of generosity. I'd always been afraid that if I stopped helping, there'd be nothing left for me. And now, I had my proof. My grandfather stayed with me for nearly 2 hours. He helped me call the caregiver to check on Lily again. He sat with me while I ate the hospital dinner that I barely tasted. When he left, he squeezed my hand and said he was proud of me. His words meant the world to me, and I held on to them throughout the night. The next morning, my parents showed up. I could tell right away that they hadn't come to apologize. My mother walked in with that self-righteous look on her face, chin slightly up and her mouth set in a tight line. My father hovered near the door, his hands in his pockets as usual. My mother started by explaining that the theater reservation was for their anniversary and that it wasn't just any show. She said I should have called someone else and that she understood I was upset but that I needed to see things from her perspective. Not once did she ask how I was feeling or about Lily, and she never said the word sorry. After she finished speaking, I calmly told her that the monthly transfer was canceled permanently. I reminded her that I had sent $5,000 every month for 8 years, a total of $480,000, without any complaint because I believed family should support each other. I told her that the night before, when I was in the hospital with broken bones and a newborn who needed care, she had made it clear where I stood in her life. My mother's face went through a series of emotions, shock first, then anger. She said I was being dramatic and that one theater show didn't erase 8 years of my support. She claimed that I was punishing her because she was my mother. I told her that I wasn't punishing anyone, I was just making a rational decision about my money based on the reality I had faced. My father finally spoke up from the doorway, suggesting that we all calm down. I told him evenly that I was completely calm. He had nothing more to say. They left 20 minutes later. My mother didn't even hug me on her way out, but I was okay with it. I just let it go. 2 days later, I was discharged from the hospital. My grandfather came to pick me up. He drove me to Ms. Jenkins to collect Lily, and then helped me carry everything up to my apartment. While I sat on the couch with Lily on my chest, he put the kettle on. In that quiet moment, with my daughter in my arms, I realized that family can sometimes fail you. But in those moments of failure, things become clear. The pretense, the excuses, and the years of unreciprocated support are stripped away, leaving behind something honest and unadorned. I knew exactly who had been there for me, and who hadn't. And I was certain that holding my daughter in that quiet apartment, I was going to be just fine. Not because my parents had come through, but because I had the strength to stand on my own, even when they didn't.